Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA Podcast. I'm your host, André Natera. On today's episode, I have Sarah Heard and Nathan Lemley. They're the co-owners of Foreign and Domestic and Commerce Cafe in Austin and Lockhart, Texas. In today's episode, we talk about the importance of using good ingredients, what it's like working together as a couple, and the transition of going from chef to restaurant owner. I think you'll enjoy this one. Stay tuned.
Today's episode of the Chef's PSA podcast is brought to you by the Chef's PSA store, the ultimate shop for chefs who live the hustle. Rock the buck French hats and hoodies, stay sucker-free with the Sucker-Free Kitchens line, or keep it real with the Just Cook collection. From tees to hoodies and more, we've got gear designed for chefs who work hard and play harder. Support the podcast and show off your style. Head to shop.chefspsa.com now and grab your favorite. Chef's PSA store, cook hard, stay sharp.
So, I work my new shirt for you. I don't know if you can read that. You see what it says?
Yeah.
And I know you guys serve brunch, and I know, and actually, It says buck front for people that are just listening. You guys serve a great brunch. Like, I don't like serving brunch. I hated brunch. It was like the bane of my existence when I was a chef, but you guys do a great brunch, actually. And I'm thinking the last time that I was there, I don't know if you still serve them. You had these, like, amazing, was it like popovers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the popovers.
Do you still do the popovers?
They'll live on forever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about a lot of things. So one of the most important things, I think, it's something that you guys are extremely passionate about as well. Things that I think you do really good job with that Foreign and Domestic is incorporating great products and also respecting the ingredients, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of our ethos.
Yeah. When we worked together, I'm trying to think way back when. I remember one of the cooks had left some chickens in the sink, and the next day, you couldn't use them. They left them. I don't know if they were forced on them, but without running water. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I know the next day, all the chickens were gone. Now, where we worked together, it was a large operation, so throwing away 5 or 6 chickens was nothing in terms of it was going to put a nothing dent in the food cost. But I remember you were so pissed because it wasn't about the food cost. It was about the product, wasting product, the loss of life. How do you incorporate that sort of ethos and philosophy into the restaurant?
Oh, it's in so many ways that I don't even think we realize that we do it anymore. Yeah. We use every part of the animal. We love finding ways to incorporate things like, pig ears and goat heart and all the things that do often get thrown away or used for lesser things like dog food. Yeah. I know we had a battle with Farm to Table, and somebody was buying up all the hearts for dog food, and we were like, no, it's on our menu, we need it. Yeah. So it's just a huge part of what we do. We want to use every part of the vegetable. We want to use all the leaves. We want to use all the odd bits of the animal, and that's just because that animal lived and it died. That plant lived and died. Yeah. And all those parts are here to utilize. So why would we not utilize them? So how frequently does your menu change? I'm assuming it changes seasonally, but does it change like micro-seasonally? It changes, I like to say, seasonally and on a whim. So if we find a product that we like, we change it. If we run out of a product that we loved, but we can't get it anymore, we change it. And then it also depends on how things are running in the kitchen. So the smoother things are running in the kitchen, the more often we're going to change the menu. That goes down to training. So if we're short 2 cooks on the line, we want to keep things as steady as we can, survive. Right now, we're a little overstaffed on the line, and we have a great sous chef. So we're not only changing the menu like crazy, we're also running 5 or 6 specials a day. That's a lot of specials. It's too many. Yeah. What does the menu change process look like? Like, what does the creative process look like?
Usually we run something come up with an idea, get it to a point where we feel like we can run as a special, probably run as a special. And if it's received well, we like it, the cost is good, then we can probably put it on the menu as a, permanent thing for, however, a month or 2 or whatever. And I don't know. Some items are tested out more than others. Some are like ready to go day one.
Yeah.
Some are like weeks. And
Or some we intend as a special, and then something happens. Like we had an item that just didn't work out the other day, and we didn't have any for service. So that special all of a sudden became part of the menu.
And because you're running your own restaurant, you have the ability to be nimble, adjust quickly. If something's not working, take it off. If something's great today, put it on. Obviously, a lot of restaurants can't do that.
Yeah, it's great not having to seek much counsel when we make decisions. It's usually just a short argument between the two of us.
Who wins?
A little heated.
But I should say.
That depends, I think,
depends on the day.
the day for sure, and the tempers
Yeah.
that day.
So that's interesting that because both of you are chefs, both of you are fantastic cooks. How do you collaborate ideas together? Like, because I'm sure, like, yes, you're both chefs, but you also have different backgrounds. Like, you guys didn't come up in the same kitchens. You came up in different kitchens. You have different ideas on food. So how is it having two opinions? Because I know chefs, right? They're all opinionated, and none of us are wrong, right? Of course.
Never.
Yeah. So how do you guys come together on ideas?
I'll start by saying I'm wrong quite a bit.
Are you? Okay, good for you. That's mighty big of you.
That's the learning process. You can't learn if you're not wrong ever.
I'm never wrong.
This is where we disagree.
Yeah.
We came up in very, very different kitchens. I kind of came up in the scrappier kitchens. He had the opportunity to go work for some incredible chefs. So he's learned all the very correct ways of doing things. And I won't say that the ways that I've learned are wrong, but they're a little less fine-tuned, a little more versed towards making sure that it gets done. But it's worked out for me, so.
Yeah. So when do you guys brainstorm together, like ideas on paper? What does the brainstorming process look like? Like a bunch of books in a room with a bunch of sticky notes, or is it just like drawing? Like how does the creative process go?
A lot of times we just send like notes to each other on our phones and stuff. And, like as far as the dishes, we usually kind of work on them independently and then have each other taste them, I think is what normally happens. Because it's really hard for two people to like cook one dish at the same time and like really collaborate. I feel like we collaborate after we've come up with the full idea a lot of times.
It's a lot of editing or a lot of, I can't figure out, I'm stuck on this spot. What do you think would fix it?
With the team also involved, so now you have other cooks and sous chefs involved. How much do they get to be involved in the menu creation process?
Not as much as we need them to be.
Yeah.
But now that we are a little overstaffed and feeling pretty comfortable in the kitchen, I feel like we can start getting back into that. We lost staff for a little bit. There was a shortage for sure. So
Yeah.
it's getting back into the habit of that's going to be great.
I love Foods in Season, right? So they also sponsor me, so I love them as well. But I used to use them because they would have like crazy mushrooms. They're big on foraging. I'm trying to think if you need ramps, they're going to let you know when ramps are here.
Yeah.
Right. If you need like obscure vinegars and things like that, they also have like I'm trying to think like spruce or like just shit that you don't often think about. Like, call Heather from Foods in Season. Like, hey, what's up? What do you got? But I know you yourselves are also very into foraging.
Yeah. We love getting out and seeing where the food came from.
Yeah.
And I always call it picking gold up off the ground. It's a little scary to get into because, there's some things that can definitely go wrong with foraging. Wow. Picking the wrong things, not being as smart as you thought you were. I know.
But they have apps for that now, like where you can take a photo of the plant, right? And
It's easy.
I don't trust any of that.
You don't trust the apps.
But I do trust, we've got a few people that we work with. I have a few books that I like to look through.
Yeah.
And then there's good old Google, which will help you, really nail down what the differences are. I thought I had wild carrots in my yard for a while. Turns out it's hemlock.
What's hemlock?
Super poisonous.
Okay.
Yeah, they used to.
You're right on the.
No, absolutely not. Looks like a carrot. Does not smell like a carrot. There's a difference on the stem with the hair, and then there's a slight purple in color that you want to look for. But I like connecting with it. When it comes on a truck, you're not really seeing where it comes from. And I think that all goes back to the respect part of food.
Yeah. Do you remember years ago we went foraging?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we went foraging years ago. I'm trying to think. I don't know. It's like 10 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
And
Seven.
I remember like we were in the woods and like, oh, these are Turk's caps. You could eat this. And these are passion fruit. And I'm like, wait, passion fruit grows in Texas? And there was just so much wild shit out there that I had no idea that you could just pick up and eat. And some of it was, honestly, some of it was very good that I thought you can't replicate that flavor. Like it only comes from a wild foraged ingredient. So I'm trying to think the right way to ask this, but how do you like when you're introducing wild and foraged ingredients on the menu, like how do you prepare the guest? Number one, like, hey, we picked this, and it might taste like this, but there's no frame of reference of what it may taste like.
Yeah, we just go for it. And, you know, we try to tell the staff, like dewberries, they look like blackberries. They don't necessarily taste like blackberries. So we try to really nail down, just like you would with wine tasting notes. What does it taste like? So to me, dewberries are like a little more acidic than a blackberry. They still have a little note of blackberry, and then they smell like a crate and barrel.
Yeah. Do you think that, I mean, we could talk about this at length, especially with ingredients. I'm a firm believer that if you want to make better food, use better ingredients. Like the ingredients make all the difference in the world. If your chicken sucks, it might actually be the chicken. Yeah. Like you might not be buying good chicken, or it might be the lamb or the cow that you're buying, but also the produce that you're buying, when you're buying it. Not just who you're buying it from, but when you're buying it. Obviously, strawberries aren't in season. I mean, they're in season somewhere, but and I think that gets lost on a lot of chefs, especially young chefs. Like they focus sometimes more on like, I want to make this really beautiful thing with all this cool techniques, and I want to make sure it has, you know, hexametaphosphate to emulsify the cheese sauce. But it's like, yeah, but the ingredients are shit.
Yeah. Something I learned way back when I actually went to college in psychology class was Gestalt psychology, and it's the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. So to me, that goes.
You said
right.
Gestalt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that goes into, you know, the journey that the food takes. So the dirt that it's grown in, the person who picked it, the methods they used to pick it, and then the journey that it took to get to you. All of those things, then you combine them with who's cooking it, what equipment are they using, you know, who's receiving it. All of those things all have to line up, and it's a delicate game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're a chef and you have access to amazing produce, you don't even mess with it much. You cut the tomato, put some olive oil. That's good quality, some finishing salt. But if you have bad ingredients, like sometimes it doesn't matter how good of a chef you are. If you're starting out with bad product, there's not much you could do with it. Yeah. I mean, sure, you can make something edible, but we're in the restaurant business. We're in the business of selling food that's delicious, not just edible food, but delicious edible food.
Yeah, I think that as a chef is one of your biggest responsibilities is sourcing, finding the best product that you can. You know, obviously at a price that you can sell it for. Yeah. But you know, sourcing is a huge part of the job. And you know, when you find a product that that's better than you've ever had before, it's super inspiring, and that's, you know, makes you want to put it on the menu and have other people taste it like right away.
You ever put anything on the menu that just sucks? Like the fuck takes it
I mean,
off.
I can't remember that, but I'm sure I have.
I just what's like the worst thing you've ever put on the menu? Can you recall?
Oh my gosh.
One of the first dishes at Foreign and Domestic that I did, I loved it. And now I look back on it, I'm like, I would never do that. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
And it was lamb, like the little tiny lamb T-bone chops.
Oh, yeah.
With creamed collard greens and roasted grapes. And it all worked out, but it was a hideous dish.
And those little lamb chops are hard to eat.
And they're really difficult to eat, especially when you put them on a bed of creamed collard greens. Yeah. And I don't know where I was. I don't know where my headspace was that day.
I was once, I entered a chili competition, and I made and I scorched the pot. And so the chili was scorched.
Extra smoked.
But it was also a bad chili. It was like venison, blueberry chili. And I won. I ended up winning the competition, but I often look back on on this. I'm like, man, I served a score. Like, it was like one of those things like, why, first of all, why did I win? Like, who's voting on this? But I mean, it was all about the personality. Well, and I'm not joking, because what a lot of people forget when you're in these, you've done these food grazers, and it's also a competition, and like people have to vote for the best dish. It's like when I was doing those, I'd be rowdy, pouring them shots, giving them caviar, like buying the vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a game.
I at Koshan 555 went and stood around the voting booth with a tray of cookies with pork fat icing on them.
Yeah.
And it actually got us one of our regulars for about 5 years now.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, that was it. I just wanted to correct my quote on Gestalt psychology. It's the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. I love that. I would take that approach with leadership. So I would say, if I could get one message to everybody, sometimes it's faster than just giving the individual message, right? So,
absolutely.
Because the whole team needed to, even if one person didn't get the message, 20 people did.
I've also always applied it to guests and the way that they act in the dining room. So, maybe the steak being overcooked by one temperature isn't really what set them over the edge.
Yeah.
And you don't know all the parts of the day. You don't know what they're going through, what traffic they sat in, what life experiences they had today that led up to that steak needing to be absolutely perfect for them today.
So I have a question. This restaurant, Foreign and Domestic, was your first restaurant that you guys have owned together.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
And how did you transition? Because you went from being chef employee to now being chef owner. What was the transition like, especially for people that have never owned a restaurant, and also for people that think, oh, one day I want to own my own restaurant? And a lot of, I would say 99% of all the chefs out there don't own where they work.
Right.
I would say most of them are employees. And 1% probably do. And by the way, don't fact check me on that. I don't know if that's that. I'm just making shit up as we go. But what are some of the things that were shocking for you in that transition from going from chef employee to chef owner? And then what were some of the biggest changes that you had to make within to make it a seamless transition?
For me, a huge thing was that there's absolutely no one to blame but yourself anymore.
Yeah.
There is no way out. Everything that happens in that building is our fault now. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
It really is. And cooking is so much easier. Cooking is the easiest part. So you go from being the chef and you just have to make sure your food cost is in line and your labor cost is in line and the food is good and people are coming. And now, you also have to make sure that the front of house is happy and the dish machine's working and the toilets are flushing and the front porch is swept.
Yeah, that was I guess the hardest part is making sure that your employees are now set up to do their job.
Yeah.
Is that you're not going to be there all times to fix everything, but you know the maintenance is being done. They have the equipment that they need, and that they're set up to do their job. Because I don't know, because usually it was like we were there, we could fix anything at any time, but obviously not anymore.
And then the back end, making sure that the taxes are paid and everything's in line and all the permits are up to date. And
So yeah, that's something a lot of people forget is like, you got to pay taxes. I hate that that's true, but you have to pay taxes.
So many taxes.
So
many that we didn't know.
On everything. I hate taxes, the bane of my existence. How do you reconcile the idea of being the chef and making decisions as a chef would make, but also sometimes having to be but not sometimes, you're always the owner, and you always have to balance those two decisions? Because I would imagine, and I don't want to speak for you, but I would imagine that when you were employed, you probably made different decisions based on the integrity of the product and how you wanted to run your kitchen. But when you own it, it's a completely different mindset, because you have to factor in, but I got to pay all these bills too. And our guests coming back for that dish that I really want to put on the menu, right? So how do you reconcile that?
For me, a big one is labor. We run very clean kitchens. It's just part of who we are. I think it's super important. I wish more people did that. But at the end of the night, you got to balance your labor. And if now if I know that front of house was heavy on labor today or sales were a little lower, it's, I used to let the cooks prep after service a little bit. And now I'm like, no, you need to clean this kitchen. Like, no more prep, cutting you off. If it needs to be done tomorrow, maybe we'll come in early, or maybe we'll just move faster tomorrow.
Right. So it's a matter of instilling a sense of urgency in the workplace culture, tracking everything daily. What do you use to track everything? Like, your labor and all the financials.
Toast does a lot of stuff for us.
Yeah.
Obviously we use like QuickBooks for bookkeeping, and it's all there for you every day to look at. Either on your phone now, so you see minute by minute.
So when you come into the restaurant, like, what's the first thing do you check the numbers from the day before? You checking those before you go to bed?
Oh, we check them about
or like it's like you're checking the price of the Bitcoin. Like you check.
Absolutely. We watch. I would like to say that we don't micromanage, but we do watch. And if it's slow and we see that there's still 5 people on, we're like, hey, what's going on? Why are we not, cutting people yet? Little things like that. I watch the open table. It's a little bit of an obsession because I'm terrified that they're going to mess something up and somebody's not going to get seated. And that's like the worst thing that can happen. You have a reservation and we don't have a table for you.
Yeah.
So we definitely probably check things a little too often.
Yeah.
But we also trust the people that we have. So we're having to make a lot less of those calls.
Yeah. So when you're a chef, and I'm just saying just chef, you have a lot of headaches. You have the compression from the owners. You have the compression from the cooks that are like, I need a day off and everything else. But when you're the owner, like it's a different stress, right? Because now you have those same pressures, but you also have the pressure of, I have the responsibility of keeping this restaurant open for myself and my family, but also for all my employees that rely on this to support their families.
Yeah. It's an internal pressure now.
Yeah.
We opened during the freeze that we had this week and got a little bit of flack on the internet for being open because we're endangering people's lives. What they don't see.
Flack.
Oh, random people on the internet.
Like they go on your page?
Yeah. We'll post that we're open and we get the comments. But what they don't see is that, like our Lockhart location, the employees that did come in all live within a mile of the restaurant.
Right.
And they all need that paycheck to pay their rent. Rent doesn't take a snow day.
Yeah.
Right. And in Austin, our 2 servers that came in, they live within a mile of the restaurant. So that's really not that far. And there was no ice on the roads when they came in.
No.
But we can't just close because it would be easier. We don't have the funds to just pay everybody to take the day off. I wish we did.
Yeah.
It would be great. But that's the reality of a small restaurant, is there's just not those funds. But yeah, it's just being able to take a minute, look at all the things. Okay, do we have staff that can make it in safely? Do we have guests that want to come in? We were busy. We had people that wanted to come out and eat, especially because we're in a neighborhood in Austin. So people that wanted to go out to eat that didn't want to go far, they just walked over.
Because you have 2 spots, right? How do you guys divvy up the time? I'm curious because we haven't talked about this, but how do you divvy up the time between the 2 restaurants, between the 2 of you? And does one of you have, I should say, like, does one of you have your fingers on the food just a little bit more in one of the places, or are they both equal?
I'd say both of us are equally involved in the food. We set up the second restaurant, Commerce Cafe, to run without us being there day to day.
Yeah.
Foreign and domestic is still meant to be, our personalities on the plate. It's still meant to be very personal. So we go to Commerce every day usually on the way in to foreign and domestic,
And the way out.
yeah, and the way home. So we'll it's in the middle of our drive to foreign and domestic. We'll stop, we'll check in for lunch, we'll talk with the chef, make sure everything's looking good, taste some food, maybe eat lunch, and then head to foreign and domestic. So we don't one person's not one restaurant, the other person another restaurant. It's not at all like that.
I would say we eat lunch there almost every day. Usually to
What do you guess from people listening?
Man, I really like the rigatoni
Yeah.
with vodka sauce. It's just simple. It's easy to eat in the car.
Spicy rig.
I love the chicken sandwich, but it's kind of hard to eat in the car. And he just gets a burger every day.
Yeah.
Burger or chicken sandwich, but it's, even in the car's hard.
One of the great things about Lockhart is we have a great chef that
Yeah.
I actually know from high school. We worked together at Red Lobster in high school. And
Shout out to Red Lobster and their cheddar biscuit. Right? Those biscuits are so good. Is Red Lobster still around? I saw that a lot of them were closed.
most of them are closed. But
Yeah.
fun fact, those biscuits are 310 calories each.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as you only eat one.
Yeah.
So you can do that, right?
When you're at Red Lobster, you don't not eat the cheddar biscuits when you're at Red Lobster, right?
Yeah. But we rely on him a lot. He's the chef there, but he's also a bit of a general manager. He takes care of things. He's unfortunately had to do some plumbing this week. But he really, really just takes things head on, and that's super, super important for us.
One of the challenges that the entire industry faces now is recruitment and retention. So having 2 restaurants and being in Austin, which is a competitive market when it comes to restaurants, especially with the Michelin Guide coming here, a lot of cooks are now flocking to only a select number of restaurants. How do you remain competitive to attract talent, but also how do you when they're in the building, what is the culture like to retain the talent?
Yeah. I think culture-wise, we really focus on making sure that everybody has the tools that they need, that everything's functional, that they have a clean environment to work in. We try to minimize the chaos. It's a 1,300 square foot building, so that's easier some days than others. But we really, really focus with them on respect for each other. So things like the dishwasher doesn't come in till 3. The cooks are there at 1. They're asked to do their own dishes while they're cooking, just to, rack it and push it through. That way, when the dishwasher comes in at 3, he's not coming into a mountain of dishes. And that's not so much a labor thing. Like, realistically, those dishes could pile up and it'd be fine-ish. But it's a respect thing for that dishwasher. They're not allowed to just drop their dishes in the dish pit. They got to take the utensils out, stack them nicely, spray them out if they have time, even when the dishwasher's there. And that's respect for the dishwasher, but it's also respect for each other. We have 1 chinois. So if you use the chinois and then you drop it into the bottom of a pile of dirty dishes, the next person that needs it is going to have to not only find it, then find space to clean it and push it through.
Do you take, you were talking about foraging earlier, do you take some of the team out? Like, are they, the cooks now, are they switched on with that? Like, I want to learn about foraging and fermentation. I know you do a lot of fermentation.
I wish they were more interested.
Yeah.
I think part of it is distance. So we live in Luling. We're about an hour from the restaurant. And that's where I do a lot of the foraging. Foraging is possible in the city, but it takes a lot more effort. You get a lot less produce, and I think I'm a lot more worried about contamination in the city. When I'm out foraging near Luling, I'm literally like out on a dirt road, probably miles in. I've got a few patches that I like to go to, and it's pretty remote. But I'll find 2 gallons of dewberries in one spot.
Yeah. I was thinking about foraging. Do you remember, again, we were talking about foraging earlier. Do you remember one of the, I won't say who, one of the guys we were with cut his thumb off when we were foraging?
Oh, I'm
Don't say his name. Do you remember that?
Vaguely
We were foraging. He was
remember
trying to crack a green walnut.
Yes.
And he had and he put his thumb there and he chopped his thumb. And I remember, we had to, he fainted.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that now.
Do you remember that now?
Yeah, I don't think I had had that in the front of my head for a while.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I was like, it's something I don't think about often,
Yeah.
but because you were there that day that happened.
Well, see, and I think that's the thing. You were in a position where he was your employee, so it stuck more with you. For me, I was like, what?
And why did he cut his thumb off?
Yeah, I actually, Rachel that took us on that trip, I still message with her often. She's when I talk about having some people I trust with foraging. She's one of the people that I do. I'll
great at it.
send her a picture of it, and I'll be like, can you just confirm this before I eat it?
Yeah.
One of the big ones I pick is wild stinging nettle. And I didn't know that was around Luling until my daughter tried to pick it.
Yeah.
And that was a wild day. She thought it was really pretty, and it was a really rough couple of hours. So I started figuring out what it is. And I use it for everything now. I love to work it into doughs. It's
Yeah.
like spinach, you know?
Like a pasta.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
Green pasta dough.
And then when I have really bad allergies, I use it in a tea.
Really?
Yeah.
What does it do for the allergies?
I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it's one of those, it's one of those signs that
Trust the science.
but I looked it up, and it's great for allergies. And so I'll just go out to the yard and pick a bunch, throw it in the kettle with some honey and some lemon, and it works pretty well. I try that before I go to the doctor. Eventually, I end up going to the doctor sometimes.
Do you find like a lot of the cooks that are coming into the kitchen now? I haven't been a chef in 3 years. Like, I mean, I've consulted and I go in and I see the shift, but I don't live it every day.
Yeah.
Right. Like I haven't really been working with the cooks because I know, like, it's funny. Like, someone was showing me an executive chef at this place, and it's like I've been retired longer than they've been cooking. It blew my mind. I was like, holy shit! I haven't cooked professionally, like run a kitchen in 3 years, and they're already there. And I'm like, shit, I haven't. Do they really know everything they need to know?
I had a realization not too long ago that one of our cooks had been alive less years than I had been cooking.
Right.
And that was scary. It was a really scary moment.
That's wild.
I was like, he was born after I started cooking.
Is the mindset like I guess I should ask this, what do you notice is the biggest mindset shift from when you first opened the restaurant? Because how long have you had the restaurant now? For like more than that, 7 years.
Almost 8.
Almost 8, yeah.
So what is different with the mindset when you first opened the restaurant, those cooks, that opening team? And I'm not saying say anything bad about the current team, but like just mentality of the applicants.
I think the intensity, and we're seeing it shift back
Yeah.
to the intensity a little bit.
Why do you think that is? Because the chef's PSA? Because I'm motivated them every day? Because the chef's PSA?
I would hope so.
Well, I mean, that's honestly why I started. Is like I wanted to be I noticed that a lot of people get advice from like the bad line cook next to them, like the angry cook.
Yeah.
And angry cooks have loud voices in kitchens. And I think people don't understand that. It's like sometimes the person that's influencing the kitchen culture the most is the disgruntled line cook, sometimes even more so than the person that's trying to affect positive change. So part of what I did with Chef's PSA was like, okay, I have a big enough platform where let me be the positive influence and let me show you like the people that are on the winning team, the people that are running restaurants, running kitchens, like they don't think like that.
Yeah.
So listen to them, because if you keep listening to that person, you're going to like look at where they are. You could be that person if you keep listening to them.
One of our biggest shifts, I think, professionally was learning to, even if somebody is a great cook, if they are cancerous in the kitchen, eliminate them. You know, you try to, we always give them, you know, a little redirection. If they're not receptive and they don't make changes, then we get them out as quick as we can, because it's just not worth
You have to.
disruption.
Someone messaged me the other day. I was like, hey, I got this cook and I want to get rid of them. You know, they're blah, 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 but they're good.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, like,
It doesn't
get rid of
matter.
them. It doesn't matter. Like, you good doesn't, it's a poison pill, right? Get rid of them.
Being good at the expense of others is not good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The gestalt. Back to that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You said that you think it's changing recently.
I do. I feel a shift. You know, there was a big staffing shortage. Everybody, you know, exited the industry. So we went from having a decent amount of intensity to everybody coming back into the industry was super green.
You had to compromise.
And there was a lot of compromise, which is really unfortunate. But now those cooks have a few years under their belt. They're starting to understand the basics. I do feel like there was a mentality shift where everybody just kind of had this, like, I need to take care of me and only me. And there was a lack of focus and a lack of drive. And
Lack of teamwork.
teamwork was really, really bad.
Yeah.
But we're seeing, like, right now we have, I think, the best crew that we've had in a very long time.
We have a really good crew now.
Really, really happy to see it. We have, you know, a good mesh of personalities, and they all have a little bit of experience, some more than others, but they really, really try to help each other learn, which is incredible, because they're definitely a mixed group of people. You know, it's not everybody went to these certain restaurants and everybody has the same experience. So it's cool to see them, collaborate and teach each other. And
No, that's good. When you're hiring people, what is it that you're looking for in candidates right now? Like, and I'm not talking about a good resume is a good resume, but like when you're interviewing someone, like what are some of the red flags and what are some of the green flags?
I think we look for less of like the technical skills now. So
Yeah.
I feel like we know that we can teach them that. They just need to be in the door. It's more of, are they receptive to not necessarily criticism, but advice or something?
instruction.
Yeah. And do they, are they respectful to the other cooks? Do they ask questions? Like cleanliness, like, yeah, I mean, we always look at that, but it's something we can teach as well. I always ask them like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to be a chef? Do you want to own your own restaurant? And it's crazy to hear the things like, no, I would never want to own my own restaurant. That's crazy. And that is, for me, I always wanted to own my own restaurant. And it's crazy to hear.
But do you think that like, because there's also like they might see like, I see what you go through.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it for sure.
They like at least want to be a chef, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to be in this industry.
That, I think that it wasn't that way for a while. It was just a job for some people for a little while. And that's super unfortunate because I always say like, hey, there's a lot better paying jobs that are way easier.
Yeah.
Go take that job if you just need a job. Like if you do this because you want to cook, because you love cooking, because you want to be a chef, because you want to own your own restaurant. I think finding people like that that's amazing. That's what you want.
One of the things that's super unique about the two of you is that you're a couple also.
Yeah.
So how do you like how for all the couples out there that think that they want to work together, not just work together, but open restaurants together and be chefs together and a creative job. What's the secret? What do you do? What do you don't do?
I think for me, I've had to. I think it was Marco Pierre said service is service.
Yeah.
And so I try to remember that the restaurant's the restaurant.
Yeah.
And we are both very passionate and we both fight very hard for what we think is the right way to do things. Sometimes we don't listen enough, but we're learning to work on that. But I like to think that we fight hard and fast and we get over it hard and fast. We get it out. We say everything we need to say. We may or may not come to a decision, and then we're okay.
Yeah, I don't try not to take an argument home with me. It's like done, and I'm over it in 5 minutes. I forgot about it 5 minutes later,
And sometimes that makes me mad.
Are you always at work? Even when you're not at work? You know what I mean? Like because
One
of
of
what you do?
us.
Yeah. No, I mean like mentally. Like even when it's like, hey, we're not at work, but you're at work.
Unfortunately, and I think that's something that we're both working on. She's probably better at it than me. There's always it's the phones. You have your phone on you. You're connected to.
You're checking those daily open table reports.
You're connected to it, and it's it's unfortunate, but we're working on that, and it's a hard thing to learn.
So for your for your mental health and for your well-being, what do you do like to make sure that it doesn't completely consume you in a negative way? Do you do anything?
I have hobbies.
Smoke a blunt?
No, we're
Roast
not
a
that
roast a
cool.
lamb?
Yeah,
I've taken up going to the roller rink every Thursday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I try to make it a priority. Like I know that I need that release. I know that I need to go skate off some aggression. And it feels good too. It's more of a workout than I remember it being when I was a kid. So for me, just having those things that I kind of schedule, like I go have breakfast with my parents on the same day every single week. So I make time to make sure I'm talking to my parents. My brother comes with me to the roller rink. So I make sure that I'm spending a little bit of time with him and his daughter. And then, we make sure that we eat at home and cook dinner and try to have those outlets. Nathan has a little bit of a hobby. We smoke cigars once a month.
Yeah, shit. We need to smoke a cigar. Yeah, we need to. We talked about that. Yeah.
I should have brought him today.
Yeah. I only smoke Escobar cigars, by the way.
Oh, we're not that cool.
No, like that's what I smoke. But I love a good cigar. Yeah. What are you smoking these days?
Man, Sarah's picks them out usually. We have a cool cigar shop in Lockhart. I couldn't even really name much.
But is that like a ritual for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to relax, to kind of
Yeah.
blow off some stress,
Yeah, especially after a hard day.
on the porch late at night.
Yeah, I love that.
Um,
I have a ton of cigars. I have, yeah, like I have a big humidor. What is that, like 3 feet? And then I have a small humidor that's, the regular box one, and they're both full. Like I probably have about 100 cigars right now that I'm like, damn, how am I going to get through all of these?
yeah,
So yeah, we need to smoke a cigar.
for sure. I've really been into the ones that have the jalapa filler
Yeah.
lately. I don't know what it is that's drawing me to that, but I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, but I mean, I would never encourage anyone to like pick up something that's maybe a bad habit, because I don't know if cigar smoking is bad. For me, it's not a bad habit, but man, I do enjoy it. Like personally, I mean, I do my Q&A every Sunday with smoking cigars. I love.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah.
I try not to smoke every day.
For me, I promise I'm not having a midlife crisis. I did buy a motorcycle when I turned 40.
What kind?
That's Triumph, the Bonneville T100. So
Nice.
that's like my getaway. I try to drive it on the back roads and just kind of relax.
Yeah,
I hate riding in the city in Austin. I feel like someone's trying to kill me at all times.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of like getaway. On Sundays or something. But
One of the things that we really focus on the show on Chef's PSA is giving advice to the next generation that's coming up. For a first-time restaurant owner, like what are some of the things, like if you could give someone advice, like make sure you do this, what is that thing that they need to consider?
Take things in stride.
Uh-huh.
Don't try to do everything all at once. Prioritize. Make your list of things that need to be fixed. Figure out what's the most important and just chip away at it.
I'd say talk to your peers, talk to people who own restaurants, get advice from them.
Yeah.
Work for good people is a huge thing. That work for people that, like, I wanted to own foreign and domestic. It was the kind of restaurant that I wanted to open. I worked there. I learned a lot. I learned how to run it before we actually bought it, which is not a lot of people get to do something like that.
Yeah.
And it's because you were a sponge. So for me, I always tell the cooks, be a sponge, take everything in, observe everything, and then figure out what applies to you later.
Right.
But always say thank you, be appreciative of that input, and figure out what applies to you later.
If you had a chef's PSA out there, what would it be?
Just to stay observant and keep up the intensity.
Keep with the intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
just focus.
yeah. An intense cook, and I don't mean like yelling at me, but
Right.
like an intense cook that's focused is a good thing.
Yeah. Like keeping your station clean and
Always learning.
being on top of your prep. And
Always.
that's intense.
For me, like, I read cookbooks, growing up as a cook, and I don't think they do anymore, I guess. I don't know. I try to loan them my cookbooks all the time. It's like, if you see any books you want to read them, please.
Yeah.
But I think that, to me, that was a huge part of becoming a good cook, is reading and, taking in information.
Yeah. Do you read the cookbook, like when I say read the cookbook, like you look at the picture and that's it? Or do you like read like, the story about the farm in the front page? Do you like read them front to cover?
I can't say I've ever read any cookbook front to back.
Yeah, front to back.
Go through it, flip through, look at all the pictures, obviously, and then kind of focus on like the things that I think are most interesting.
You know what's a really interesting cookbook is Andre Chang's Octophilosophy. See, I read cookbooks cover to cover. And that's why I asked, because I don't know if I'm weird in that regard. Like, I'll read every single recipe, the method, on every page. And the reason I do that is because every now and again you're going to see something like you wouldn't have picked it up just from looking at the picture. Like, Octophilosophy is one of those books. Like, when you look at the photo, but when you read the recipes, like, I didn't pick that up from the photo. Like, that pairing of flavors or the technique that he used to get that, it's interesting because it's a good book. So for people listening, Octophilosophy, I don't know if you have it, but it's a great book.
No.
It's one of the few that we don't have.
You should get it. It's really good. I think you'd like it. If you had a Mount Rushmore of chefs out there, who would be the 4 chefs that you'd put on Mount Rushmore?
Oh, yeah. Gabrielle Hamilton.
Uh-huh.
Love her. I'm a sucker for Marco Pierre White.
Yeah.
I came across him when I was a young cook and was pretty obsessed. What about you?
I mean, Thomas Keller's always been,
He's the GOAT.
the gold standard.
Yeah.
I mean, Alain Ducasse. That's a hard one. I mean, there's so many chefs now.
What's interesting is you guys' answers are so different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's totally our style.
yeah, I could see the Gabrielle Hamilton influence here. I could see the TK Ducasse influence here. And then you guys come together and create a great restaurant at Foreign Domestic. Where can people find you?
306 East 53rd Street in Austin, and then all over the internet. So fndaustin.com, same handle on Instagram.
F&D. Yep.
Yeah, FND Austin.
Yeah. And 800 on Instagram.
And Chef Heard.
Yeah. All right, guys. It was great seeing you.
Likewise.
Thanks so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And make sure you leave 5 stars if you're watching on Spotify or Apple or anywhere else. It's a 5-star podcast. Go to chefspsa.com. Get yourself some of the books that I've written, or get yourself some nice Chef's PSA merch. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
Yo, it's André in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction, stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, class is in session.